Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Saturday, January 20th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my college basketball bank shop best bet, you can find this at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday's loaded card in college hoops. First up, we see San Diego State and Boise State. This one's going to be a 1 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on CBS. Now, we faded San Diego State in its last road game against New Mexico, and I mentioned going into that game that I just don't really trust the Aztecs on the road right now, as although they have the nice, impressive win over Gonzaga in a true road spot back on December 29th, that's really the only thing that they've done well on the road this season. And Gonzaga, we know it this season, 12-5 already. This is a Gonzaga team that's nowhere near as strong as we've seen in the last decade or so, or last 20 years. So I do think that San Diego State, when you look at their road games, they lost to BYU outright. They barely beat UC San Diego by 1 point at the buzzer in a game they were trailing for a large majority of it. They lost to Grand Canyon by 6 points on the road. They barely beat San Jose State, where they were a big favorite in that game, only won by 3 points, giving up 78 points on the road, and they got blown out to New Mexico in their last road game. We won that one with the Lobos 88-70, the final score. San Diego State was up big early in that one, but they lose the game by 18 points in the end. Not what you want to see. Now you're in another tough spot in another tough building at Boise State. Very strong home court advantage for this team, especially when they welcome teams like San Diego State, a team that was in the national championship last year. And I think Boise State's underrated, undervalued, a team that's battle-tested. They played their 33rd toughest non-conference schedule. So I don't think they're going to be intimidated at all in this game, and we're getting them at a really good price because they're coming off the loss to UNLV, the upset loss to the Rebels. But before that loss, Boise State had won 4 straight games. They beat Colorado State at home. They beat Nevada on the road by 8 points. And last year, these two teams played twice, as most teams do in the Mountain West, and they split the season series. What was the game that Boise State won? The home game. I think that this is just a really good spot for Boise State. We're getting a great price with the Broncos. Give me Boise State in this matchup. Next up, it's UCF in Houston. This one's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. Now, situationally, in my opinion, this is not a great spot for UCF. Their second straight road game. This could be considered a letdown spot after the upset victory over Texas. For a team like UCF, their first season in the Big 12, that's a big win, over a strong program like that in the Longhorns. But also, it was a comeback victory. It was an emotional win. It was 22-6 Texas at the beginning of that game with about 12 minutes left in the first half, and it was still, a pretty lopsided score at halftime in favor of the Longhorns, and UCF was able to mount the comeback and find the victory late. And then we saw in the post-game handshakes, things got a little chippy between the two teams. And I do think after a game like that, an emotional game like that, going on the road, your second straight road game against a team like Houston, oh man, Houston, we saw what they did against Texas Tech. That was a Red Raiders team that was on a 9-game cover streak, I believe, going into that ball game. They were playing great basketball, and they lost by 22 points. Houston was down, or 23 points, dominant in that ball game, and I just think Houston at home is so tough to beat. UCF, while they won that game on the road against Texas, we also saw them lose on the road to Kansas State by 25 points. At the beginning of the season, they went on the road to Miami, lost that game by 16 points. So I'm still not sure UCF is a great road team. And I think against a defense like Houston, UCF in that win over Texas really relied on their 2-point field goals in that comeback. They were 22 of 34 from 2-point range. It's about 65%. You're facing the number 1 2-point defense in this game in Houston, holding teams to around 40% from 2-point range. I just don't think UCF's front court is going to be good enough in this ball game. It's just really a bad matchup. So give me Houston this one. I'm going to lay the big number at home. Next up, it's Purdue and Iowa. This one's going to be a 2 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Now, Purdue, 16-2 this season, 5-2 in conference play, number 2 both in the AP polls and the KenPom ratings. However, I'm not always looking to lay a lot of points with this team on the road. We saw them lose to both Northwestern and Nebraska in true road games in the conference this season already, and Iowa is a really tough place to play. This team has a great home court advantage, and I also think they're just underrated in general. I think, their offense is potent, we know that, but I think the defense is honestly better than the current efficiency numbers may suggest, and they're a decent rebounding team on the defensive side, so that's important against a front court like Purdue, and I think they forced, some pretty tough shots. I think their shot quality defense is pretty solid, and when we look last year, this team took down a lot of strong teams at home. I mean, last year, Iowa finished as the 41st team in the KenPom ratings, and these were all the teams that were better than them in the KenPom ratings when Iowa was playing at home. Iowa State, their rivals, we saw them beat Indiana at home. They beat Michigan, who was 44th, but they beat Maryland at home. They beat Rutgers, Northwestern, and Illinois all at home. They beat Ohio State, who was not that great last year, but they also beat Michigan State in overtime. That was one of the best games I've ever watched in college basketball, that epic comeback. And, Iowa didn't get the chance to play Purdue at home last year. They only played one game on the road at Purdue. It's a much different story with this Iowa team and a lot of Big Ten teams on the road versus when they're playing at home. I like Iowa in this ball game to keep this game close. Maybe pull off another outright upset for Purdue. It'd be crazy to see them lose 3 conference games already, but I don't trust this team on the road right now. Give me Iowa plus the points. Next up, we see Florida and Missouri. This one's going to be an 8 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on ESPNU. Now, both of these teams have been kind of a disaster to start conference play this year. Florida had big expectations. They're 1-3 in conference play. Their only win against Arkansas at home. And Missouri, 0-4 in conference play this season. They've not just lost the first 4 games in the SEC, but they've also lost just 7 of their last 8 games in general. Their only win along the way against Central Arkansas. So, Missouri lost to Kentucky and Alabama on the road. No shame in those losses, but also lost to Georgia and South Carolina at home. Not what you want to see. And in this matchup, I think it's a pretty lopsided matchup in favor of the Gators. Just when you look at the fundamentals, I mean, Missouri is really struggling on the defensive glass this season. One of the worst defensive rebounding teams in all Power 5 hoops, and ranked 330th nationally in defensive rebounding percentage. That's really bad news against the Florida Gators. They are 4th in the country, earning offensive rebounds on 41% of their missed shots this year. They should be able to get a lot of second-chance looks in this game. And just like they did against Tennessee, even though it wasn't a win in the end, Florida still had 19 offensive rebounds against a pretty strong Tennessee front court. So I think they'll be able to get to 15-plus offensive boards in this game, maybe even 20-plus. And, this, I think, for a Florida team, it's already got a pretty strong offense. That's even more dangerous. Then you add to the fact that Florida does a really good job of getting to the free throw line, and Missouri's defense takes a ton of fouls. I just think this is a really good matchup for Florida's offense. The Gators defensively have not been good enough this season. We saw them give 100 points to Ole Miss, 87 to Kentucky, 85 to Tennessee. But against Missouri here, I think it's going to be good enough. And I think Florida scores a ton of points because of their fast pace offensively, 14th in the country in average possession length offensively. Give me the Gators here on the road. I think they win this game big. And the final game we're going to talk about for the Saturday card in college basketball, it's going to be St. Mary's in San Francisco. This one 10 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. 2 of the better mid-major schools going at it. In this one, you can make the argument these teams are playing their best basketball of the year. We got St. Mary's on a 5-game win streak. They've started 4-0 in conference play. 3 of their 4 wins in conference play were by double digits, including an absolute blowout win over Santa Clara in their last game on the road, 73-49, really impressive win. We got to remember that's the same Santa Clara team that just beat Gonzaga not too long ago. So, the Gales playing great ball, but San Francisco, 7-game win streak. They're 4-0 conference play as well, and some blowout wins as well against San Diego, Portland, and Loyola Marymount, all by double digits. But the one concerning factor, they went in overtime against Pacific, the 347th ranked team in KenPom. Not what you want to see for San Francisco, but we can let that game slide. I think it's going to be an excellent matchup. 2 teams that play pretty similar. I mean, great rebounding team. St. Mary's top 20 in both offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. San Francisco can compete on the defensive glass. They're top 15 in defensive rebounding percentage. But the difference for me is St. Mary's has just played really well in this series. And I think they are playing the better ball overall this year. I trust them more as a team shot quality-wise. And, San Francisco hasn't beaten St. Mary's since January 3rd of 2019. It's just been a really dominating season series for St. Mary's, and with them playing their best ball and playing well on the road. I mean, they're 4-0 in conference play, but 3 of those games were on the road. It just goes to show you this team is in great form. I don't think they're going to be intimidated on the road here. In a tough building, San Francisco has a nice home court advantage, but I don't think it's going to be enough in this one. Give me St. Mary's on the road. They're just rolling. Give me the points. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and put your college basketball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium, and there's a link in the description. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.